welcome to Know Physics with me. Hope all are doing good. Yes, so we have already started with Physics CBSE class 10 and chapter 10 light reflection and refraction is already done along with the numericals. Okay, so book back and book in questions are also discussed. So I'll provide you the playlist link in the description box so that you can check it out. Okay, so today we are going to start with a fresh chapter, which is chapter 11, the human eye and the colorful world. One of the most interesting and important chapter that we have to really know, because it is completely related to what we are actually experiencing in our day-to-day life. Maybe we don't know the fact, but this is the reality that we are using in our day-to-day life. Okay, so one of the interesting chapter. So let's start with the chapter today. Okay, yes, this chapter basics completely rely on the previous chapter. Okay, so what is the topic of this chapter? The human eye and the colorful world, right? So what we are going to learn in this chapter is, first we'll learn what human eye is made up of, okay, and how are we able to see objects around us, okay, or see things around us. And then we will learn different parts and functions of human eye, which is very important for us to understand things. Okay, and then we will learn some of the defects of human eye. See, even I wear spectacles, right? So there is some defect in my eyes, and what is the defect of my eyes, or what is the defect of different person's eyes, and how to correct it, and how power is used to correct it. All these we will learn. And then the second of the chapter is completely about the different phenomena that are occurring around us. That is, in environment, what are all the beautiful phenomena happening and how it is happening. These are all the things that we are going to learn in this chapter. Okay, so yes, let's start. So in the previous chapter we learned about light, right, and different phenomena like reflection and refraction, and that same concept we'll use here. Okay, how are we able to see objects around us? Through eyes, yes or no? So what is the function happening inside our eyes? You know, our eyes is made up of a lens. Okay, so what is the function of the lens, and how are we able to see different colorful objects? Okay, different types of objects that we will learn in this chapter. And then using the image formed by, we have learned, right, image formed by the lens using ray diagrams, and from that we found nature, size and position of the object and images, or no. So using that concepts we will try to understand this structure of human eye and defects of human eye in a better way. Okay, so first we will learn about structure of human eye. So what are all the parts of human eye and what are all the functions of each part? That is what we are going to learn in the first half of the chapter. Okay, yes. So this is the structure of eye. This is how the eye looks like. I know it's not that good, so kindly adjust. We'll try to learn the different parts detailedly. Okay, so first of all, let's understand what is eye. We all know, right, eye is one of the most important sense organs, yes or no? Without eye, even certain things we can find using smell, and even we can touch and feel. But can we feel or can we find the color of certain object without eye? No, right? So it is one of the most important sense organ. That is why we are able to see things around us, all the colorful things, yes or no? Yes. So now we will detailedly get into one by one. Okay, so first thing, the white part in our eye, right? So you know our eye is made up of eyeball, yes or no? Now the white part in our eye is nothing but called as sclera. It's not mentioned in our diagram, but just get to know about it. Okay, so the white part is called the sclera, and this part is nothing but called as the cornea. So how will you explain this cornea? This cornea is nothing but a thin bulged transparent membrane in the outer surface of the eye. It is nothing but the cornea. Okay, so this thin bulged transparent membrane is called as the cornea. So what is the function of this cornea? So most refraction of light takes place in this cornea. So what this cornea does is it refracts most of the light entering the eye. Okay, so this is the main important function of cornea. Even you may get 1 marks. Okay, so what is the function of cornea? Directly they can ask, or they can ask most of the refraction of light takes place at which part of the eye. The answer is the outer surface of the cornea. Okay, then we'll go to the next layer. Okay, so next layer is the black color, right? That is nothing but called as the iris. So how will you explain iris? Iris is nothing but a dark black diaphragm. In the eye is nothing but called as the iris. Dark black muscular diaphragm is called as the iris. So what is the function of this iris? This controls the size of pupil. So iris controls the size of pupil. We'll come to know what is pupil. So next we are going to see about pupil only. So what this pupil does is, this part is nothing but the pupil. This pupil adjusts the amount of light entering the eye. Okay. So how much amount of light should enter eye is decided by this pupil. Okay. And we have the eyeball whose diameter is 2.3. That is size. Okay. 2.3 centimeter is the size of the eyeball. Okay. Next we go with the important thing, which is lens. So our eye is made up of crystalline lens. Okay, so what this lens does is, this lens is one which forms the image on retina. I'll tell you what is retina. So this is retina, before which we will understand. So this lens, what it does is, it forms the image. We have already learned, right, when a light enters from an object on the lens, what does it do? It refracts and then form the image of the object on the screen, right? So here it forms the image on a retina, which means here retina acts as the screen, right? So where image is formed, there is the screen. So image is formed on retina. So the screen here is the retina. Screen inside our eyes is the retina. Okay, and then we have one important thing called ciliary muscle. Okay, this ciliary muscle is nothing but, it is the one which adjusts the focal length. Okay, so to see distant objects we must have certain focal length. To see nearby objects we must have certain focal length, right? So this adjustment is done by this ciliary muscle. So that is how we are able to see the clear object on the retina. Clear? Then we have something called aqueous and vitreous humor. So aqueous humor is here. And vitreous humor is here. They are something like jelly-like structure. Okay, so these are used to maintain certain things in our eye, like pressure all. Okay, so these are all the important parts of an eye. Then we go with retina. As I told here, it is convex lens. So convex lens, we know what kind of image it forms. It converges light and bring it to focal length. And what kind of image is formed by convex lens? It is real and inverted, right? So real and inverted image is only formed on the retina. Okay. Then what does this retina does is, this retina consists of light sensitive cells. Okay, so it gets activated. Okay, and it consists of two types of light sensitive cells. One is rods and another one is cones. So rods decide the intensity of light. Okay, and cones get activated. It depends on the color of the light. So these are the light sensitive cells. So on illumination, that is when light is incident, when image is formed on this retina, it sends signals. What kind of signals, you know? Electrical signals through optic nerve. This is nothing but the optic nerve. Where it goes? It goes to brain. So brain decides how the image is formed, and that is how we are able to perceive the object. Okay, so the brain is the one which detects the right position of the object. Clear? So what kind of image is formed? It is not virtual and direct. It is real and inverted only. Okay, so this lens helps to form real and inverted image on the retina. So optic nerves, what it does, it sends this electrical signals to brain and the brain detects the correct position of the object. Okay, and thus we are able to perceive the object. Clear? These are all about this structure of human eye. So once again, we will just have a quick look on what are all the parts and what are all the functions. So the first thing is sclera, and it is nothing but the white part of the eye. Next is cornea. Cornea is nothing but a thin transparent bulged membrane on the outer surface of the eye. And what is the function of cornea? It refracts most of the light that is entering. Okay, and then we have iris. Iris is nothing but a thick dark diaphragm, muscular diaphragm that controls the size of the pupil. So what does this pupil does? Pupil is the one which adjusts the amount of light entering the eye. Okay, and then we have the ciliary muscles. Ciliary muscles are the one which adjust the focal length, and thus we are able to see the objects clearly. Okay, and then we have crystalline lens. So crystalline lens form a real and inverted image on the screen called retina. So retina is the screen, or retina is the place where image is formed, which consists of light sensitive cells, rods and cones. Rods get activated on intensity of light and cones get activated on the color of the light. Yes, and then these send the signals. What kind of signals? Electrical signals through the optic nerve to the brain, and brain will detect the object and will perceive the object. Clear with the structure of eye? And the eyeball is, our eye is made up of eyeball, and it is of the size of whose diameter is 2.3 centimeter. And we do have two fluids, aqueous humor and vitreous humor. So here between this lens and retina we have vitreous humor, and here this gap we have aqueous humor. So these are fluids in the eye that maintains the pressure inside our eye. Clear? So to understand in a better way the function of iris and pupil, we will consider two situations. Okay, so consider you are under bright light and dim light. Okay, this situation I will tell you. Bright light, you can consider that you are just out of your house during a sunny day, and dim light, after going you are coming back to your house in a dark room. Consider these two situations and we will now understand. So during bright light, what this iris does is, this iris is nothing but a dark diaphragm, right? Muscular diaphragm. This one is the one which adjusts the size of the pupil, as I told you already. So what it does is, it will contract or reduce the size of the pupil. Okay, so what this pupil does, this is the one which allows the amount of light to enter the eye, right? So this will allow only, pupil will allow only less amount of light to enter our eyes. So during bright light we cannot open our eyes and see. You can even try and see. Okay, so we will dim our eyes. Okay, so that is what happening during bright light. These are the functions of iris and pupil. Whereas just the reverse happens in dim light. In dim light, what this iris does is, this will expand, say only to this amount. So what this pupil does, this pupil will allow more amount of light to enter the eye, and thus we are able to see the object clearly. Clear? So these are all the functions of iris and pupil. Now we will go with ciliary muscles. Okay, we'll have a separate diagram and we'll understand. So what this ciliary muscles does is, this is the ciliary muscles, right? So in order to see a distant object, okay, sorry lens. Okay, in order to see a distant object, consider two situations where you have a distant object and a nearby object. As I already told you, ciliary muscles are the one which adjust the focal length in our eyes and thus enable us to see the objects clearly. Yes or no? So what this ciliary muscle does is, to see a distant object, this ciliary muscles will relax, which means In other terms, you can say it as expand. Okay, this ciliary muscles will relax. So what will happen is this lens, it will become thin, and thus when light enters, after refraction, your focal length will be more. It increases. Okay, so to see a distant object, your focal length should be more, right? So how this happens is this ciliary muscles will be relaxed, and thus your lens will become thin, and thus increases the focal length. Clear? Whereas vice versa happens in a nearby object. You consider you have a nearby object. That time what this ciliary muscles does is, this ciliary muscles will contract. So what will happen when this contract, this lens become bulged, right? Like this. Some more curved, okay? So the curvature of the lens also depends on ciliary muscles. That is how ciliary muscles are, whether they are in expanded form or contracted form. So when the ciliary muscles are contracted, your lens become thick and bulged. So what will happen when light enters, your focal length will be near. Okay, so your focal length is near. So these are the two types of functions this ciliary muscles does. Clear? Yes. Then there is something called power of accommodation. So we have already heard of the term accommodation, right? Accommodation means what? To adjust according to. Okay, so yes, power of accommodation, here it means nothing but the ability of the eyelids to adjust the focal length, and that adjustment is done by whom? Ciliary muscles, and that is nothing but called as the power of accommodation. That is, if you have to see a distant object, your focal length should be more, right? So who is doing this adjustment? Ciliary muscles. In what it is doing? In eye lens it is doing. That is how we are able to see the distant object clearly. Whereas nearby object, if we have to see clearly, what this ciliary muscles have to do? This should contract and thus decreasing the focal length. Clear? That is nothing but called as power of accommodation. So the ability of the eye lens to adjust the focal length is nothing but called as the power of accommodation. Okay. Then we have least vision. Distant vision. Or far point or near point. Okay. Near point is nothing but the minimum distance up to which our eye lens can able to see the objects clearly. That is nothing but called the near point. So what is far point? So the far point is nothing but the maximum distance where an object can be seen clearly by our eye lens is nothing but called as the far point. Clear? So minimum distance and maximum distance to which our eyes can see the objects clearly and distinctly is nothing but called as the near point and far point. So for a normal eyes, okay, the near point is something about 25 centimeter and the far point is something about infinity. That is, infinity means to long distance we are able to see our objects, right? So that is nothing but the far point and near point. So the normal vision range is 25 centimeter to infinity. Okay, just consider a situation less than 25 centimeter. That is, try reading your textbook close to your eyes, by keeping it close to your eyes. Will you be able to see it clearly and read it? No, right? So that is the minimum distance up to which our eye can see a object clearly, and the far distance is infinity. Okay, so these are all the things that you have to know about this. Now we will learn about a defect called cataract. Okay, so cataract is nothing but, you might have already heard, right? In certain people, what will happen is this crystalline lens, right? It becomes milky or cloudy. Okay, a white layer will be formed, and that is nothing but called as the cataract. So that may lead to, sometimes you are not able to see, mild defect in vision, or entire loss of vision will happen due to this cataract. So nowadays we have cataract surgery to remove this, and we'll be able to see the things properly. Clear? Yes.